listeners, this is Alex Swolinski, and you're listening to Go, the Travel Podcast. This podcast is designed for the curious traveler, the traveler who wants to know more about a place or a thing. So we're starting a series called Quick Facts, where we're going to list the most interesting things about a place. With numerous natural wonders and spirited cities, Argentina is an astonishing place. After living there for a while, I learned a ton of amazing things about Argentina, the best of which I'm going to share with you in this episode. Did you know that Argentina is the world's 8th largest country? The 7 larger ones are India, Australia, Brazil, China, the United States, Canada, and Russia. The Latin word for silver is argentum, which is how Argentina got its name. Spanish conquistadors thought they'd find a lot of silver here, after the natives told them about this legend of a mythical mountain located in the center of the continent. The mountain is called Sierra de la Plata. Explorers believed that it could only be reached by traveling through the Rio de la Plata, plata being the name for silver in Spanish. Several failed expeditions went in search of this mountain, and many lost their lives in the process. It's never been found, but locals still claim that the mountain exists. Argentina is South America's second largest economy, right after Brazil. In December of 2001, Argentina had 5 presidents in 10 days. It all started when protesters demanded that President Fernando de la Rue resign from office. Typically, his vice president would have taken over, but his vice president resigned a year earlier, and he was never replaced. So the next in line for the presidency would have been the head of the Senate, Ramon Puerta. But legally, he could only act as a temporary president, that is, until Congress would vote for a new one. They voted for a governor of one of Argentina's 23 provinces, named Rodriguez Sá. But within a week, he resigned, which would have automatically made the head of the Senate president again, but that guy didn't want to serve as president for a second time, so he resigned as head of the Senate. This made the head of the House, Eduardo Camaño, the president, until of course Congress would select a new president, which they did. They replaced him with Eduardo Duhalde, who became the 5th president in 10 days. Duhalde becoming president was very interesting because Duhalde ran for president and then lost the election a year and a half earlier. In 1913, Argentina was the 10th wealthiest nation per capita. Now, it's 59th. Mount Aconcagua. I can't say this. Okay, Mount Aconcagua. There. Mount Aconcagua is not only the highest point in Argentina, but it's also the tallest mountain in the Americas. Measuring at 22,841 feet, many mountaineers believe it's the highest non-technical climb on Earth. In Argentina, Colgate, the toothpaste brand, is pronounced Colgate, and Colgate roughly translates into "go hang yourself." Pope Francis is the first pope from Argentina. He's also the first pope from North or South America, and the first pope from the entire Southern Hemisphere. I bet you didn't know that Pope Francis worked as a bouncer at a nightclub in Buenos Aires. Pope Francis is also the first Jesuit priest to become pope. Jesuits spend a minimum of 8 to 12 years studying before they're ordained as a priest. In 1977, Argentina sent a pregnant mother to give birth in Antarctica. They did this to claim part of the continent as their own, believing that if an Argentine was the first human to be born in Antarctica, then they can claim a part of it. Today, over 400 people live in Argentina's 6 permanent Antarctic stations. They claim over 560,000 square miles of Antarctic territory, which is almost as big as the state of Alaska. In the 1970s and 80s, over 30,000 people went missing in Argentina under a military dictatorship. Those people are called the disappeared, and their family members still march at the capital till this day. The dictatorship kidnapped and killed those who publicly disagreed with their agenda. Many journalists, like Rudolfo Walsh, fled the city of Buenos Aires and created an underground news network. He secretly published and distributed resistance leaflets in the city on a regular basis. In doing so, he quickly became a target for assassination, and so did his daughter Victoria Walsh. People who resisted knew that if they were taken away by the military police, that they would be tortured into revealing information that could lead to the imprisonment and death of people they worked with in the underground resistance. Victoria was a known contact of her father's, and military police decided it was time to arrest her. Like other resistors, she chose suicide rather than capture. After an incident known as the Battle of Coro Street, in which Victoria and others fought with the police, she took her own life to avoid being captured. She was only 26 years old at the time. Now, Rodolfo Walsh continued publishing his resistance leaflets. He would sneak into Buenos Aires to hand-deliver them to a contact who would distribute them. After making a delivery, one of his associates had been captured by the police and tortured into tricking Walsh to meet with him. When Walsh arrived to the meeting on March 25, 1977, he was met with heavily armed military police instead. They intended to arrest him, but Walsh had other plans. He always carried a small pistol in his coat pocket. He pulled it out, took cover behind a tree, and began firing. He knew he'd be killed regardless of the outcome. The military police fired at him with automatic machine guns, littering the tree and the buildings behind him with bullets. Walsh did successfully hit one of the MPs with his gun, but was eventually overwhelmed and killed. The military dictatorship ended in 1983. Dozens of military officers were imprisoned for their actions. It took until October of 2005 for some of the military personnel responsible for Rodolfo Walsh's death to be arrested. Most recently, in 2011, a former commander of the Argentine Marine Corps was sentenced to life in prison for his involvement in the disappearances of thousands of people. Okay, in lighter facts, the city of Rosario has banned parents from naming their kids after World Cup soccer star Lionel Messi. They were forced to create this ban after parents began naming their newborn sons and daughters after him. The city wanted to avoid having classrooms full of little Lionels and Messis running around, causing confusion. Messi has the Guinness Book World Record for most goals scored in a year, and he's won the Golden Ball, which is essentially the MVP award for the World Cup. 1 million penguins a year migrate to Argentina's southern coast. Argentina is home to 4 penguin species: the Humboldt, the Gentoo, the King, and the Magellanic. The famous revolutionary leader Che Guevara is from Argentina. He studied medicine in Buenos Aires before becoming a doctor. In 2010, Argentina became the first Latin American country to legalize same-sex marriage. 37% of Argentina's population descends from Italy. Argentina is the 6th largest producer of wine, behind the US, France, Spain, China, and Italy. The city of Mendoza produces a majority of the nation's wine. Located in western Argentina at the base of the Andes Mountains, tourists can rent bicycles and take trips through all of the wine tasting rooms. Here you'll often see local police helping tipsy tourists find their way back home after a long day of drinking. Argentina is the 3rd biggest producer of beef in the world. They produce around 2.8 to 3.5 million tons a year. One of the largest dinosaurs ever found was discovered in Argentina. The Argentinosaurus was about 100 feet long and weighed 80 tons. The world's widest avenue is Avenida 9 de Julio in Buenos Aires. It has 14 lanes of traffic with 4 lanes of parallel streets, totaling 18 lanes. 9 de Julio stands for the 9th of July, which is Argentina's Day of Independence. And that's all we've got for facts on Argentina in today's episode. We've also written an article about these facts on our website at gothepodcast.com, where you can see pictures and find more interesting content. Find us on Instagram and like us on Facebook and subscribe to us wherever you're getting your podcasts. I'm Alex Swolinski. Thanks for listening.